Hello? Good morning, good afternoon. One of those things. Welcome to Toledo Rotary and the first full day of spring. Came in at 11:33 yesterday morning, I've been told. Welcome to any guests. We have quite a few guests today and we'll get a chance to introduce you later. And I would, Jason Kusma, where are you? Our host.
Welcome everybody.
Head of our library system. Thank you so much. This is a great space. If anybody has any cell phones, please turn them off, including me. I might have forgotten. I think I'm good. I would like to move right on because we are running a little bit late. So I would like to invite Carol Sobczak up to do the reflection, and Reg Jackson, will you come on up too? I know you're both here. Reg will lead the pledge for us.
Thank you, sir. This is an excerpt from A Prayer for Peace that was written by the now deceased Pope John Paul II. And he prays to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, but of course, in all our different diverse religions, some people pray to Allah, to Yahweh, to the Great Spirit, to God, to Jesus Christ, to Mother Earth. So, deity of your choice we'll pray to today. Help us to conquer the menace of evil, which so easily takes root in the hearts of the people today, and whose immeasurable effects already weigh down upon our modern world and seem to block the path toward the future. From famine and war, deliver us. From nuclear war, from incalculable self-destruction, from every kind of war, deliver us. From every kind of injustice in the life of society, deliver us. From the loss of awareness of good and evil, deliver us. Accept this cry, laden with the sufferings of all individual human beings, laden with the sufferings of whole societies. Let there be revealed once more in the history of the world the power of merciful love. May it put a stop to evil. May it transform consciences. Consciences. Amen.
Amen. Flag is over there.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks to new member Carol and past President Reg. Appreciate it. I would also like to thank our sponsor for the month, 2Scale, and Rotarian, Sharon Skilleter. And I don't know if you know where the floor mic is, but it's up here by the camera. And I know we have some guests and some visitors, so if you could please present your guest or visitor.
Good afternoon, I'm Ben Burrows. Fellow Rotarians, I'm pleased to introduce my wife, Jody King, who is an assistant United States attorney in the Northern District of Ohio and spends a lot of quality time with our distinguished speakers today. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. This is Tracy Tangerman and my daughter Bryn. She's on spring break, and also my supervisor, our branch chief for the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Ohio, Ava Rattel Dustin.
Well, good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. My guest today is Tom Sorosiak. Tom is with the Polish Cultural Center. And a couple interesting things. One, he's leading a capital campaign to help them raise money to build a new cultural center near the Great Lakes History Museum. They already have the land picked out. And then secondly, with that initiative and frankly with everything happening in the Poland-Ukraine area, so you need to get out to Rotary and give some presentations and talks. So hopefully I'm teeing him up for that.
All right. Oh, you're going to introduce a guest or the speakers?
No, guest.
Guest? Yeah, use the mic, unless you want to use this one.
I have two guests at our table besides our speakers who I'll save to roast later. We have Andrea Dorster-Niebert. She's a law clerk at federal court. Some of you know her from Rotary. She went to Otterbein College, OSU law grad. She was with ABLE, UT Law Development, and now she's landed in our federal lab. Andrea? And my pleasure to also introduce to the community, you may not have met, Darrell Clay. Darrell, please stand. He's new to our court from last year. He's our new magistrate judge. Life for Darrell began in the South, in Florida, New Orleans, law school at Tulane, came to Ohio. Why? Well, the good weather, of course. Actually, to avoid the hurricanes and the floods. He grew up in the law in the Cleveland-based law firm where he worked for 24 years. His practice focused on civil litigation, white-collar criminal defense, and aviation law. He's past president of the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association. He is also an instrument-rated commercial pilot, which is very helpful for a judge to have a fast escape. He and his wife Mary, parents of 3 boys, 4 grandchildren. They reside in Catawba, Ottawa County, within our jurisdiction, another avenue for judicial escape. Please welcome him.
All right, welcome to all. Jody, Bryn, Ava, Tom, Andrea, and Darrell. And Andrea, welcome back. I've already got Andrea teed up for the Mesa bike ride coming up. She was one of the original Mesa bike riders. All right. I would also like to remind you that the district car raffle is still going on, and they're a little behind in donations. And it's an electric vehicle, so that should be a little more important with gas prices at $8 a gallon in California, where a couple of my daughters live. And a reminder to sign up for the Soho food pack on April 9th at St. John's High School. And now, Jack, are you ready to introduce? Our own Judge Jack Zuhairi will introduce the speakers.
Before I do, I'm going to steal a little time from Mary Ann because I get asked a lot of questions. What is the federal court in Toledo? Well, on the screen is what the federal court in Toledo is, along with our general court. And I won't repeat everything there other than you may know there are 2 districts in Ohio, northern and southern, and hopefully you know enough geography to know that we're in the northern district. And we're in the western division as opposed to the eastern division. So our northern district is divided into 2 places. This is a colored map. We have the green counties, 21 counties. We have more counties than the other division. There are courthouses in Cleveland, Akron, Youngstown, and Toledo. And Mary Ann will tell you there's also an additional bankruptcy court in Canton. The question, why is it divided that way, is part political. And Mary Ann may be able to explain Canton. I won't even try.
Ralph Regula.
There's the answer, Ralph Regula. And the Youngstown Courthouse has another name. I believe Trafficant might be related to that one. The Northern District, that's, again, all the places I just referenced. We have bankruptcy court as well as the regular court. And what did we do during COVID? We held court. We couldn't always do it in person. Electronic filing was easy. You could do it from anywhere, which we've had for years. And then we learned how to Zoom as well, some things we couldn't hold. So this is a chart that takes the 2 years pre-COVID and the 2 years during COVID. You will note that during, and this is the civil cases, this first chart, some things went down, primarily habeas cases and labor cases. Some things went up. Administrative cases, that would be primarily Social Security cases, people on disability getting a court review. Let me talk about criminal cases. This again is just our Western Division. What went up during COVID years? The gun cases increased. We had a lot before, we had even more. That's a reflection of the national push. Immigration cases went down. Again, a reflection of the national priorities. How about jury trials? Very difficult. Civil jury trials during COVID for the entire Northern District went down from 40 to 60. I'm sorry, 16. 40 to 16. Criminal trials also down. Before, 77 for the year, and then 44 during COVID. Just a brief snapshot to orient you. Now my pleasure to introduce both of our speakers. Judge Ann Whipple, you have her bio, and you know me, I won't repeat the bio. She has her bankruptcy bruises from the Bell and Beckwith case. Some of you older folks, oh yeah, may remember that. She worked on that matter for 13 years. Talk about job security. It's great. She is a huge University of Michigan fan. She holds 5 sports season tickets there. If you need tickets, go see Ann. I think she inherited that blue gene from her father, who was a longtime U of M fan and also a respected newspaperman with the Blade. Again, some of you may know him. Bankruptcy judges separate from the other judges. Why? They're different, although we have one thing in common. We both deal with grifters. And if you don't know that word, look it up. Also pleased to introduce Judge Jeff Helmick. In addition to the robe that he wears on the bench, he now wears a hard hat and has for a bit of time. Working on this courthouse project has been handed down from several judges who worked on this project even before I came on the bench. That's how it is when you work with a federal bureaucracy. Jeff has worked hard on this project, and you're going to see from him those efforts that have succeeded finally, and you'll see and hear from him the progress on that project, including our excitement that we finally actually turned some dirt. And you'll, I think another thing that you may want to have Jeff back for, not about the courthouse, Jeff. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. It's about bourbon, because he's done the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and I think that may be of interest to some of you. Please welcome both of them, first Ann and then Jeff.
Thank you. It's a privilege to speak to you all, and I assume most of you would probably consider yourselves lucky if you've never met me before and never meet me again. So obviously in the bankruptcy court we deal with restructuring and forgiveness of debt for businesses and individuals across the board. So good bridge between Judge Zuhairi's remarks and Judge Helmick's remarks about the project. Firstly, I didn't do charts, but in general, you know, I think economists believe, and yeah, makes sense, right? Bankruptcy is very cyclical, that economic activity is likely going to influence bankruptcy filings both by individuals and businesses. If, you know, individuals, households, businesses are stressed, they've got liquidity problems, run into trouble paying their obligations, they often need to turn to court-driven solutions, and that would be us. So until the start of the pandemic, if you remember in the Wayback Machine till 2019, of course economic activity during that period was escalating, and correspondingly bankruptcy filings and the rate of bankruptcy filings were declining here and nationwide. Well then, you know, March 2020 comes along, and you know, remember back, it was a very difficult time period, and the assumption by a lot of really smart people was that we would have choose your natural disaster, a flood, a tsunami, a hurricane of bankruptcy filings that would follow very shortly thereafter. The prediction at that time, well, was in September, that you know what's going to hit the fan, September 2020. And then it kept getting pushed out quarter by quarter. And suffice to say, that tsunami, flood, hurricane, whatever you want to call it, has never materialized, never. And so now, I mean, we have economists that work for the administrative office of the courts that are all trying to figure this out. And so, we're, I think, trying to ascertain, a lot of people are doing research on this, is this a structural change? Maybe like, are we experiencing that kind of a change in the employment market? Is this a structural change or a one-off anomaly because of the pandemic? And so our rates have continued to plunge almost, in all categories, really, 2020 over 2019, 21 over 2020, continuing to plunge, and so far, the first quarter of this year, the same thing. So, we really don't know what's happening, and, we're concerned for, and I don't get paid by the case anymore, but we're concerned for a lot of, a lot of reasons. And, I think it's probably not too hard to define some of the whys. Certainly policy responses, starting in, the March, the second quarter of 2020, made a difference. The CARES Act, the Paycheck Protection Program, state and local courts halted the collection machine, if you will. And for example, I saw a figure, and there are 44 million federal student loan borrowers in this country, over 44 million. And so since the start of the pandemic, starting with President Trump and continuing till now, right now continuing till May 1st, there has been a waiver on all collection activity and interest rate forgiveness on federal student loans. And I saw a figure that interest rate forgiveness has amounted to $5 billion a month in economic money returned to borrowers that they can use to, make car payments, rent payments, house payments, buy stuff, the American way. That's made a material impact. Secondly, it was hard to access to get to the courthouse for a lot of people. And we struggled with that, particularly people that don't have lawyers. The courthouse was literally closed. How can we get people that need help to continue to be able to access our services? And that was really a struggle. And so I think at the end of the day, we did a good job, but it was very difficult. And I think that impacted just people's ability to get relief, which is tough to know, but hopefully over the long haul, we've, solved those problems because they can't operate so much in an electronic environment. And then thirdly, just the general uncertainty. I mean, a wait and see attitude. If you don't know what's going to happen, there's a lot of structural reasons built into the bankruptcy code and otherwise to wait it out and really see where things are going to go. So, as a result, at the beginning of the pandemic, personal savings rates skyrocketed. We are not a nation of savers, but they skyrocketed. And so now we're starting to see them go in the opposite direction. As well, consumer credit is accelerating now too, and that tends to be an indicator of things that we're going to see. So we'll see. We don't know. Is it structural if things changed, or is this a one-off and things are going to stabilize? We don't know. So, that's where we are. Our experiences here in the Northern District of Ohio, across the district, all 5 of our court locations, is the same as the national experience. We're not unique. We're not doing or seeing anything different than is happening across the country. And then the second point I want to make as a bridge to Jeff Helmick is that, the bankruptcy court here in Toledo has long lived with the district court, or maybe they've lived with us. I don't know. But we live together in the federal courthouse on Spielbush, and I think suffice to say, we all love and treasure that courthouse. And if you've been able to be there, you know why. It's just a wonderful building. But let's just say it lacks some modern amenities and functionality, and it's time. So to facilitate the project that Judge Helmick is going to tell you about, the bankruptcy court is leaving and moving out of the federal courthouse for a temporary period of time. When exactly, that's been a struggle pinning down a date. Supply chain issues, for example, are impacting our project. And so the bankruptcy court will be moving, and perhaps will be a new neighbor to some of you, and I hope a good new neighbor. We will be moving to the 6th floor of the PNC Bank building, hopefully sometime next spring. So we'll look forward to being new neighbors with some of you folks in that building. And we're going to be sorry to leave the courthouse, mostly, and we'll look forward to coming back, because it's going to be an incredible facility when we get back. So thank you for letting me tell you a little bit about what we're about and what we're up to. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Helmick, and I'm going to be giving the presentation, as you heard. My thanks for the invite from this wonderful organization going forward. And I also want to give thanks to Jack Zuhairi for that introduction. It could have been a lot more painful, I assure you, had he chosen to go in some other directions. And I also want to give a shout out and thanks to Walt and Dominic and Matt for the hard work that they do in helping me get to this presentation here today. So I have some slides. We'll cue those up momentarily here, I think. All right, so this is a view of our current courthouse, whichever screen you happen to be on here. Moving forward, this is actually a view when the courthouse opened in 1932. And this is not Spielbush, this is actually the Civic Mall, and that's Ontario Street. That was the original entry of the building that ran here along the bottom, as you can see down here. And so, okay, so where are we located? For those of you who say, really, there's a federal courthouse in Toledo? Or if you haven't been there, Jack talked about who we are, and Mary Ann talked about who we are, but where are we? And so you can see the marker that's on here, and you can see Cherry Street as well, the Civic Mall, and Spielbush Avenue over here, and Jackson Street here with the Maumee. And then I'll zoom in for you here as well. And so you have some landmarks over here. So this is One Government Center, the tall 20-something story building. This is the beautiful Common Pleas Courthouse that sits on the block by itself with the dome. And then this is Toledo Civic Mall with the safety building, Toledo Municipal Court, the current county jail, and the federal courthouse. So that's just rough orientation for you moving forward. And you can see Cherry Street heading down here to Summit, and then over the MLK Bridge moving forward. So it opened in 1932, as I mentioned. The building originally, it was a U.S. Customs and Courthouse building at the time when it opened. There was one active judge, Judge Hahn, and one senior judge at that point, Judge Killitz. That was it. And it was also, as I said, a customs building as well. So its functionality was very different back then. So let's move forward to the Ashely today. So you just met some of us of the 5 district court judges that are there. Jim Knepp is an active district judge. Jim Carr, a senior district judge. They're not here today, but that kind of rounds out our group that's here. And of course, you met Judge Clay as well here today. 2 bankruptcy judges, Judge Whipple, our chief judge of the bankruptcy court. You just had pleasure of hearing her speak here today. And Judge John Gustafson is the other bankruptcy judge in the courthouse. So there's 7 of us. There were 2 originally, a senior and active judge. There are 7 judges in the building now. Over the years, we've forced out our pretrial probation division moving forward. There hasn't been a major upgrade since 1932. They added air conditioning in the 60s and 70s, but pretty ham-fistedly when they did do that upgrade over that time. And there are massive life safety and security deficiencies. We don't have 2 fire exits. We don't have sprinkling. It's not a great place to be. All that's going to change. So what's the project? It's to construct an annex adjacent to the Ashely Courthouse to meet both the District Court, United States Marshal Service, that's USMS, their space and security needs. Then, while bankruptcy has moved out to swing space, as Mary Ann described just now, remodeled that old building, that beautiful old building, 1932 building, which would then house the bankruptcy court and their clerk, our district court clerk for us, moved back in pretrial probation, and also the bankruptcy trustee. So we'll have more federal tenants that we have now, but about double the space that we have currently. So the goals are to avoid total disruption of the court's operation, we shall see, provide a safe, comfortable, and appropriate space for the public and employees. We compel people to come to our courthouse. We sign subpoenas. We summons jurors into the building. So members of the public come in. A lot of them aren't happy about it, by the way. So having a nice environment for them is important. We also want to maintain one public entry. It costs $500,000 to $1 million a year to staff an entry. So if we have one for a new building in the annex and one for the old courthouse, the cost of operation goes up significantly. So we'll have one entry moving forward and even one physical plant for heating and cooling both. So our team is Whiting Turner Construction. They're actually out of Baltimore, but they have offices in Cleveland and Detroit. Bialowski is the architect of record out of Cleveland, and William Raw and Associates are the chief design architects, kind of a boutique firm out of Boston. The annex will be close to 96,000 gross square feet, so a little bit bigger than the Ashely after it's constructed. Then we'll remodel the existing courthouse. The total budget for all of this is $86.7 million, which sounds like a lot of money until you start thinking about what you have to do in terms of construction of that new building and remodeling of the old building. That's design fees, engineering, construction, landscaping, everything moving forward. So here's our site. This is the Toledo Civic Mall. The existing courthouse is here. I already pointed out to you the jail, municipal court, safety building, and Lucas County Courthouse. The annex will go right next to her on the north side of the existing courthouse moving forward. And here's an enlargement of that site. So the old building is here on the right, the Ashely, and then all of this from this point forward is new, is all part of the annex and connection moving forward. And again, this is Spielbush along here. The existing conditions, it's a particularly unflattering photo of the front of the Ashely, by the way, on the left, that you can see over here. But over the years, there's a transformer that's behind these granite walls that's parked right there. And there's also a handicap accessibility ramp that's been added over the years as well. But again, not much by way of improvements. So these architects re-envision what this courthouse could be moving forward and re-landscaping the front to make it more like it was in some ways originally, eliminate those intrusions and add-ons on the front, and gently slope paths up with landscaping so that if you have an accessibility challenge, you can get there naturally and comfortably without the stigma of a ramp moving forward. And this side's a little compressed, but it just shows you the ramping slopes in terms of what's in front of the building to make it easy to access the building. So the annex will be about 65 feet away from the existing building and connected in the front and back with glass connectors on the first floor. In here, this design avoids going as high as 5 floors or more. This is a 4-story annex that will be constructed, so it doesn't tower way over the existing Ashely. We want to be respectful to that existing building. And there's a number of nice details. For example, across here, this cornice line aligns from the Ashely here to this new roof line that runs across the annex. This is just an elevation, so you can get a better look of how things line up moving forward. And as you'll see, on the first 2 floors here of the annex will be district courtrooms, 2 on this floor, 2 on the second floor. 3rd floor is United States Marshals and grand jury, and the top floor is judicial chambers. We wanted a collegial chambers where we could all be together and collaborate together moving forward. And here's how the programming stacks up, just briefly, in each of the 2 buildings. So let's just zoom in a bit. And so in the Ashely, after its remodel, yes, there's maintenance and mechanical and other things in the basement. Everyone will enter from this first floor, the traditional historic entry. The district clerk and pretrial probation will be on the first floor. Mary Ann and her partner in the law, John Gustafson, will be on the second floor reusing the 2 historic courtrooms that are there. Then there'll be a small U.S. attorney's presence. They're not moving to the building. It's like a war room, essentially, trial war room. And then the bankruptcy clerk will be on the 3rd floor. The trustee will go to the 4th floor, and there'll also be some extra room for expansion and storage. On the annex side, the new building, on the left side, on the north side, as I told you, there'll be a connection underneath. Jury assembly will be dropped in the green space that's created in between the 2 buildings. You'll see that in a moment. And then these 2 district courtroom floors, marshals, grand jury, and chambers is how they stack up. This is a video that I'll play for you now. Dominic might help me out here with the occasional pause as we go through, but this rendering will fly you through the outside and then inside briefly into the new building. So the animation starts out here on the outside. It shows you that newly landscaped entry moving forward, and then it moves you north down Spielbush to this connection that's here. Can you pause it there, Dominic? Thank you. Here, you can see the glass connection as it goes through, and you can also see the jury assembly oval area that pops up above this connector before you get to this area. If you could play, Dominic. Now we'll just take a look at the front of the new building, and this animation will pull back. Can you pause there, Dominic? Thank you. And so you can see now this glass atrium lobby that exists outside the 2 courtrooms, here and here, connected by a communicating stair. There's a cascading stair that connects the 2 floors here. And you can see there's stone that's set on the inside of that glass atrium on the back side. We looked at the Berea sandstone that's on the original building. It's aged. It comes out of the ground, kind of a light gray, kind of a granite look. But it's warm to that patina that you see now. We tried simulating it, not with a whole lot of success. So we're likely to use a complementary limestone that's a little bit lighter, but it will be real stone that's behind there in terms of a nice complement to the Ashely that rests aside. The other thing I'd mention about this is if you're in front of the building on Spielbush, so if you're in the street or you're on the sidewalk and you look up at that point, that brim across the top above that 2-story atrium, that blocks your view of the 3rd and 4th floors. So all you see is the glass atrium with the courtrooms and stone, and it's shorter than the Ashely. It's not towering over the Ashely. Whoop, I think I missed some there. Dominic, can you advance, or just let it roll, Dominic, if you would. Thank you. And now we'll just play through. So it flies across the front, cues up, pulls back. There's a bioswale in the lower left and the landscaping down there that'll hold on to rainwater for us, particularly until the city catches up. If there's heavy rainfall, we can retain it for 24 to 48 hours and then pump it into the city's rainwater system if we need to. Moving forward, you can see where the building connects to the old building moving forward. And now the animation will take you into the building through the 3 front doors. The 2 right doors that you see of the 3 will be the new entries. The left one is exit only. The lobby's been opened up. The security screening station is now off to the right. It's actually Judge Gustafson's courtroom currently. And the entire lobby opens up the way it did when the building was in early use. And all of this is clawed out new for the public through here. Our district clerk there, 7 of those beautiful fan windows along the left, and then you pass through the stone into the connecting piece where new meets old there and brings more light washing down that wall. And then this is a special place for jury assembly, an oval in here that's set within this green space. Once you pass the 65-foot connector, you're into the actual building itself, the annex building itself. The first courtroom is here on your right. You can see there's built-in seating as well. And then the simulation will take you briefly just inside for a quick turnaround. A lot of natural light will be brought into the courtrooms. This isn't the best rendering of what it'll look like, frankly. There'll be attorney witness rooms in this vestibule in between with double doors to keep the noise down. And then this communicating stair here. Judge Clay's courtroom will be to the lower right there, where you see those double doors open down there. That'll be the magistrate judge courtroom. And then when you get to the top, the atrium widens so that there's more space for public seating and queuing at the top. And then you'll see the other two district courtrooms as well moving forward. And then you can see the old Ashely Courthouse. If you look down at the end of this corridor, you can see the stone on the Ashely down around the other side. Here's a shorter simulation that will just take you on the mall side. You're on the Civic Mall side. So you're on the back side of the building on the east. And as you ascend along here, you can see the annex piece on this side. On the east side, the corners are notched of the building around the side to kind of break up the massing. And jurors are given special recognition in the corners of this building. That's where the jury deliberation suites are, here on the mall side in the corners, out over here. The building relates well to the rest of the mall. You can see the Common Pleas Courthouse rendering at the end of the mall here moving forward. And at the end of this simulation, you're on what was Constitution Avenue. You can see the north side of the building there as well. So what happens? Right now, with the Annex Foundation is underway, we're in the ground. And as Mary Ann said, Judge Whipple said, in the spring, in the next month or two, bankruptcy will swing out to the PNC building for a couple of years. Then we'll move in sometime next year, maybe summer of next year. And by we, I mean the district court, out of the old courthouse as well as the marshal service. Then they'll begin renovation for about a year of the old building. The only presence will be the entry and the district clerk moving forward. And then about a year later, in the fall of 2024, the bankruptcy court, clerk, trustee, and pretrial probation return to the Ashely moving forward. So that's kind of a brief overview of the project itself. Also, there is a history with the Civic Mall. You may wonder about it, and you can see some depictions here. There was at one point, at least, there was a fountain that was made out of glass block that was in the Civic Mall. You can kind of see in the center of this slide moving forward, and other landscaping that was here. And the style has changed over time. Frankly, it's in a disgraceful shape right now. It's crumbling, heaving in terms of the pavers. It's not unified right now, that Civic Mall that used to be, something special. And so we engaged, the stakeholders engaged the Metro Parks, because who else do you turn to when you're in trouble but the Metro Parks moving forward, and they prepared a design proposal that would take their existing plans for the Riverwalk. So a lot of you are familiar with this. So the east side is depicted here at the top of the drawing. And then down here, another place very familiar to Rotarians, which is that park, Middle Grounds Metro Park. Down there, that's, I think, probably the finest house pavilion in the crown of the finest jewel in the crown of the Metro Parks. And that was due, as you all know, I think, to the generosity of the Rotary in terms of making that happen. And I'll just pause to say a thanks to all of you folks, because Judge Knapp and I kind of took over after Judge Zuhairi and Judge Armstrong founded Reentry. And so when we were stuck in COVID and were restricted on gathering spaces, we reserved this space. And we brought those high-risk offenders in along with our team, and we met in this space, and everyone loved it. The team members, the people who are on supervision, loved meeting here outside for as long as we could moving forward. So what if we took a look at Jackson Street and greened up that boulevard and linked it to the Civic Mall? What would that look like moving off the riverfront? And so this concept schematic was done by the Metro Parks in terms of development of that existing space, including with existing monuments and other things moving forward. And this proposal was conceived or drafted. And on the left side, this simulates, as you move from left to right, kind of the topography and nature in this portion of Northwest Ohio. So the oaks are represented around the Lucas County Courthouse here. Then the Maumee River Basin could be integrated here. And then finally the Lake Erie coast along here, complete with this pond, which I think is stocked with fish, that's moved in along here as well, is a vision that the Metro Parks has potentially for our Civic Mall with a connection down Jackson Street, down that boulevard in front of the Government Center, to unite the riverfront to this area. And so imagine, if you would, being able to bring school students down. They can experience this portion of nature writ small, the scaled down portion that's here. They could tour buildings of public import, and they could also visit memorials to our fallen police and firefighters, as well as to those who have fallen in wars as well, and better appreciate those monuments, which frankly don't get a lot of attention or traffic moving forward through there. So that's what it could be, and hopefully will be one day in the not too distant future. Here, that's all I've got, folks. So questions at this point? Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Uh-oh, it's Dean Barrows.
Helmick, thank you very much for the presentation. Looks like a fantastic project. There was an era, maybe about 20 years ago and a little bit further back, when new U.S. federal courthouses looked like fortresses. This does not look like fortresses. I'm sure security is an important concern. Could you comment a little bit about the shift in design philosophy over the last 20 years or so?
Sure, be glad to. So I think that's right, Dean. There was a focus towards security and security only. The other thing was the brutalist movement kind of caught hold in Paul Sullivan, our architect, is laughing. My architect friend is laughing here. Kind of took over with regard to some of these buildings. And so they took on a bit sometimes of a bunker cast moving forward. And so that was popular for security reasons and other reasons, particularly after Oklahoma City and then 9/11 after that as well, in terms of what we were doing. And so we're getting back, I think, more towards making courthouses important civic entities, make them inviting, make them welcoming. Among the things that we like about this design is that you saw at the end justice on display for wayfinding. If you're approaching this building, right, you're walking up and you're saying like, all right, where am I going? So you get this old courthouse with a gabled roof and some columns that are on there to go in, but as you approach, you can see the courtrooms on the first and second floor that are displayed to come there, or darn few people want to come there when they come in. So making it light and open and a pleasant place and inviting was important to them, even to the point where those jury assembly or jury deliberation suites are in those wing corners on the back of the building. There's plenty of jury rooms that are simply walled off, and I understand it from a security point, but I think from human interaction and as a place to bring people in and having some empathy for how they feel, the design succeeds. And I don't really control the court's design guide, but I don't think people should be building new courthouse facilities without bringing natural light into courtrooms. I think it's a waste and ought to be banned, frankly, moving forward. Does that help address your comment?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Hello.
Hi. My question is, I see that the construction activities has really taken up a lot of the area that was used as parking before.
Correct.
And I just
Correct.
have a hard time understanding where all this parking is going to exist now in the future.
All right. So a couple of things. A little history, if you'll indulge me. The land was owned by the city originally, as was the lot to the immediate north of the courthouse where you saw the annex going. So the court, GSA, the General Services Administration, did a land swap with the city. The city got the old federal building on Summit Street, which became Promenade Park, that old federal building, and they tore that down. And in exchange, the court got room for expansion of the courthouse moving forward. The lot that's up by Cherry Street, to which you referred, sir, that's up there, that sits there, became GSA property, and they essentially let the city park there for $1 a year. Was the arrangement that was made with the understanding we might need the space eventually. Right now, it's needed for staging, for construction, and so the parking that was displaced those police officers that were parking there for free and $1 a year through the city for rent, they were relocated to Vistula and other areas for now in terms of being placed there. The future of that lot is uncertain, or certainly unclear. But in my view, because it's a civic mall and because it's at the north end of that mall, which is the gateway to Vistula, the historic neighborhood, as you know, on the other side of Cherry Street, we have an opportunity to develop there. I don't think Toledo needs more flat lot parking. I think we tore down plenty of old buildings to build flat lots. If the city wants to build structures, more power to them moving forward, or even their plans to expand Vistula. But that displacement that occurred, those folks have been accommodated for now and will be accommodated, as I understand it, long term. But the future of the space, GSA does not want to be in the parking building. They're going to excise that property after this project is completed. The question is, what do we do with it as a community? Do we make it a 4+ acre parking lot? Or do we try and develop it to connect it to the riverfront and greet the development that's going on Summit Street and in Vistula across Cherry Street? I think there's an opportunity, and I think we ought to explore it. I don't know if that, I hope that was responsive to your comments. Other questions? Or really nothing from the architect? All right.
Full disclosure, you and I know each other since we were...
I was 13 years old when we met, right.
You might speak to some of the public input.
Come on, if you could elbow me out.
On the process.
He can talk briefly, but.
Yes, I know, I'm already getting, Bob didn't bring a hook, but I think I'm going to get an elbow here. No, I mean, there has been engagement with the public through GSA for some time. And the initial proposal with regard to the Civic Mall was actually paid for with federal money for the benefit of the city in the area moving forward. And there was a combination of sources to do the Metro Park study that you saw. The Metro Parks didn't fund that. It was done by their design firm and with direction and cooperation from them. But the stakeholders in the mall put in money. And I'll say this for Congresswoman Capter. She wrote a personal check for $10,000 towards contribution of that study that was done for the Civic Mall. I think she's invested in that moving forward. But the city and the county have been partners and have been at the table with us for these many 20 years or more that we've tried to get this project moving forward. Anyone else? Okay.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Judge Helmick. Thank you, Judge Whipple. In appreciation for your fine presentation today, I really learned a lot. Things that I never knew I wanted to know. No, it's great. It's great to understand some of this stuff and how our city is developing and how the courts work. But in appreciation, we'd like to give you a book called Historical Tales of Toledo by past President Clint Mock. And also, we would like to make a donation to the Polio Plus Fund in your name. If you haven't seen those, I think you'll appreciate those books. A little history for you. All right, very quickly, Chuck Mann, we're going to squeeze him in today. He says it's only this big.
How big?
This big.
Okay.
Large print, too.
A crotchety 80-some-year-old man was arrested for shoplifting. When it came time for his day in court, his saintly wife drove him to the courthouse, and he went before the judge. He was asked, "What did you steal?" He replied, "I stole a can of peaches." The judge then asked how many peaches were in the can. The man replied, 6. The judge then said, "I will give you 6 days in jail, 1 for each peach." He raised his gavel, but before the judge could actually pronounce the punishment, the man's wife spoke up and asked the judge if she could say something. The judge said, "What is it?" The wife said, "He also stole a can of peas."
Thank you, Chuck. Great meeting today. There is going to be a questionnaire in the survey that comes out for this, so let us know what you thought of this space. The first time here, a couple snags, but I think it's pretty nice. Next week, we're going to meet upstairs here in the McMaster Center, which might be a little more challenging as far as tables and eating, but it's a great place for someone to speak. And our speaker next week will be Chet Trail from the Sylvania School Systems. Some of you might remember his athletic career. And today we have a vocational service meeting, and that's going to be room 10 on the first floor here. And I don't know where it is, but I'm sure as you're leaving, someone will be able to tell you, especially Jason. He's ignoring me too. And Luke King can also help you. I saw Luke somewhere over here. There he is. With that, meeting adjourned. Thank you much.